Welcome to the 3030 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Dr. Ruiz.
Hello everyone, super excited for my guest today. My guest today is James Strole. He is the co-founder and co-director of People Unlimited and the director of the Coalition for Radical Life Extension. We had an amazing interview. We discussed stem cells and all of the different things that you can do to live a long and healthy life. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello everyone, super excited to be here with my friend James Strole. Jim, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dr. Rez. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
I'm actually looking at you through my Skype view, but I guess everybody's just listening to us audio, right?
Yeah, everyone's just listening to audio, and that's so cool, because, we've had this conversation now, now it's going in 2 years about how technology, has advanced so much, and yet we still need doctors.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to get into it, and I think this is going to be like a really cool interview. But for people that, are not familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about you? What's your hero story? How did you arrive to what you do now and your interests in the advancement of longevity?
Yeah, good question. Well, I actually started at a very early age, interested, I'll say, in living unlimited lifespan because I saw how horrible death was. I had an experience like a lot of people have, I think, in an early age when they, think they're supermen or superwomen. And as you're young and a kid, you think you're invincible. And then all of a sudden, somebody dies that's really close to you, that you really are close to. And then you experience your first, death. That was a traumatic experience for me. It was my grandmother. I was close to her. She was a real inspiration in my life. And I had a good, warm connection with her. So when she died, it was very painful for me. I asked my mother, I said, I was about 11 years old. And I asked my mother, I said, why did grandma die, and when will I see her again? And she said, well, she died of cancer, which I didn't, really know a whole lot about. But she said, well, she went to heaven. And when you die and go to heaven, you'll be able to see her there. And that didn't sound very good to me, the idea of myself dying. I hadn't even, conceived that concept yet. But also, it wasn't comforting to me, about my grandmother. So I said, well, why can't we have heaven in here on earth? Why can't we die? Why can't we not die and have heaven here on earth? And my mother said, wow, that's a very good question. Why don't you pursue that? So my mother was a seeker herself. She'd take me, my brothers weren't interested much. So she'd take me all the new people in town that would come and talk, whether it was a new religious leader or a new person talking about some type of therapy or some new concept. She was a truth seeker, And so I went everywhere that, she went. And I pursued that thought all my life. I just thought something was wrong with death. And I think a lot of people experience that when they're a kid but don't know what to do about it. Something's wrong with it. It doesn't feel good. But then we adapt ourselves as we go along. We because it seems inevitable, we create coping mechanisms to cope with it. Well, I never found any coping mechanism for me that really worked. I always thought it was wrong. So I just began to, as I moved along in my life, along with other things, playing sports and so on and so forth, I got involved in anything I can get involved in that I'll say could better myself physically, make me stronger. I mean, way back, and you can imagine, you're a naturopath now and you're a good one. You can imagine, though, I was born in 48. So in the 50s, late 50s, then there wasn't much around as far as any type of therapies that you're offering now. Even longevity at that time wasn't talked about hardly at all. But my mother was into colonics, fruit juicing, all that kind of stuff, So if I got constipated, she'd take me for a colonic. and so I'm grateful for that today because I think it contributed a lot to my health and my strength and also my resolve to help create unlimited lifespans in this world, because I think it's the most just and noble thing we can do as human beings, to actually end our worst enemy. I mean, I use the expression all the time to people I talk to. I say, look, we're not each other's enemies. Our enemy is aging and death. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting our worst enemy.
And that's something that I'm pretty vocal about. Like, I'm in the paleo community, and people ask me, how come you don't debate a vegan? Why am I going to waste my spit breaking each other down when we have Walmart and Monsanto and Big Pharma that are trying actively to silence us? Now with Google going around and like blackballing, people that have a different form of view. And I don't like to say alternative, because alternative medicine doesn't exist. It's either medicine or not medicine. So I'm not offering an alternative. I'm offering a different perspective.
That's a great thought. I have a good friend of mine. He says, I don't like the term alternative medicine. I like it. I can just call it smart medicine.
Yeah. Or advanced medicine or modern medicine.
Yeah. Advanced. I mean, really, I think the work you do and so many people that are actually doing this cutting edge work for health, preventative medicine, should be the mainstream, but unfortunately it's not.
So define to us, for anyone that's never listened, you heard these concepts, what would you consider super longevity?
First of all, as you know, we have the biological ability our bodies are built to live without innovations or something that would, innovation is probably the best word, to about 125. If their conditions are perfect and so forth, we know we have people historically, that are documented, that lived about 123 and a half. So we know biologically the body can live that long without some type of intervention, some type of innovation. Now, we're using innovations all the time, of course, pacemakers, glasses. People say, well, I'm afraid of innovations. We've been using them for many, many years. They're just getting more advanced all the time. But to live past 125, for example, that's just a rough figure, we're going to need something that's going to really be, I'll say, revolutionary for the body. Right now, what's happening in the arena that I'm involved in, there's all kinds of new therapies coming out, new supplements that are focused on reversing aging. And this is what we are focused on, the super longevity community, focused on finding things that not only are anti-aging, that we just can live up to, say, a healthy lifespan to a certain amount of years, but we want to open up the whole spectrum to what we call infinite possibilities, lifespans that could be unlimited. I'll put it this way: a lifespan, for example, that you could live as long as you want to live in a real healthy manner. Now, I would bet that if you can live to 200 years, for example, and be really healthy and feel a lot of great vitality and strength and not be weak in your body, you're going to want to keep living, right? We're not talking about some decrepit state of living here. I'm talking about living with vitality, strength. So I'm involved with the organization called the Coalition for Radical Life Extension, which I'm the director of. And it is the producer of an event called RAADfest, which stands for Revolution Against Aging and Death. And our next event is in Vegas. This will be our fourth event, October 3rd through the 6th in Vegas this year. And we're going to have over 1,000 people there. People that are scientists, doctors, enthusiasts, thought leaders, all interested in helping create the possibility of, well, not just the possibility, it's already starting to happen, unlimited lifespans. You'll see scientists and doctors there that already have therapies and starting to go into human trials that could reverse aging anywhere from 2.5 years to maybe all the way to 10 to 20 years now. And coming close here in this future, I predict that in the next 5 years, we'll have something that's going to be really remarkable to reverse aging. That will be very, I'll say, body friendly in the sense that safe to take, whether it's an infusion or some type of gene therapy. It will be safe, and it's going to make a remarkable impact on our lifespans in reversing aging. So that's what super longevity is about. Longevity is just living as long as you can in a healthy state. Super longevity is living way beyond that and to infinite possibilities.
And it's funny. Dr. Gondry, Stephen Gondry, has a book, and the name of the book is "Dying Young at a Ripe Old Age." So it's the concept of throwing the towel on your own terms.
Yes.
Now, how can you distinguish, and it's a very solid distinction, reversing aging and anti-aging technologies?
Okay. Well, like I was saying, anti-aging, there's all kinds of anti-aging supplements, cosmetics that sometimes will, help rejuvenate or hydrate the skin. They're good. People have been using them and selling them for quite some time, but and they're part of, in one sense, what we call one of the bridges, because we have to be in a good, healthy. We want to stay healthy as we can, as vibrant as we can, until the next new technology comes along. So the infinite lifespans I'm talking about aren't just going to happen in one, cosmic moment. It's going to be a series of steps, and everything's moving, as you know, so fast, exponentially, that today, for example, we use the term live long enough to live forever. So like right now, I said in 5 years, I think there's going to be a remarkable new technology and super longevity that can reverse aging as much as 15 to 20 years. So that will give us 15, 20 years more. And then another 10 years, there'll be something else. So we keep on finding new things basically to stay alive and get better all the time. But that's the difference between super longevity and anti-aging, is that we're reversing aging and super longevity. Okay. Anti-aging is just slowing it down.
And that's when you start talking about like reversing and elongating like telomerase.
Yes, exactly. You lengthen the telomeres. Dr. Bill Andrews, who is on our board, who will be speaking at RAADfest, you're doing remarkable work in gene therapies to lengthen the telomeres. In fact, there's a good chance he'll be going into human trials here, because he's got the technique, the procedure pretty well formulated and set. And hopefully he'll be able to go into human trials in the next few months.
What are some of these technologies or these things that you apply to yourself? And what are some things that, in the near future are exciting to you?
I do a variety of things. I do everything from, because I've been doing them all my life, from breathing techniques to, yoga to cold and hot techniques. Like I do cryotherapies, and I do special, like I said, the special breathing with it, what we call the Wim Hof breathing. Anything I learn new to strengthen myself. But then along with that, I do anything I find that I consider, risk-free, or I always calculate the risk, do the benefits outweigh any risk I would take? Because I'm healthy. I'm not going to risk my health with anything, but I'm going to also realize that what is the alternative? If there's some things right now, I'm, been on this planet 71 years. That's another thing. Mindset's very important. I don't call myself 71 years old. I say I've been here 71 years. We relate too much to old, and pretty soon we begin to play that role. So the mindset, as you know, the power of the mind is very important. If I'll say, put our minds in alignment with what we want to achieve, it makes it so much easier to achieve that. So I have a mindset, what's called an ageless mindset. And I don't call myself old. I don't relate to it that way. I don't feel old. I live the way I feel. I live with vitality and strength. So yeah, I take all kinds of good supplements for that too, along with that. So that mindset, when I take supplements, I see those supplements really working in my body. I visualize that. I see them doing what they're supposed to do, whether it be quercetin to strengthen my vascular system and to take care of any allergenic or inflammation I might have to help. I visualize that. Now, as far as age reversal items, or things that I think are really helping, I take NAD. I take NAD infusions and patches. I use senolytics. I'm just about getting ready to do a dose of the dasatinib along with quercetin to rid myself of senescent cells. That's been proven across the board to be very effective to do that, and also help in inflammation in the body. Our senescent cells are called like zombie cells. They begin to, make us sluggish in our bodies as we age. And we also lose NAD as we age. So I take supplements of NAD. I'm also, I'll be one of the first candidates when it comes out for a good gene therapy that can actually lengthen my telomeres.
Yeah, and that's where things are going with like CRISPR and
That's right. That's right.
And that's where it becomes really, really interesting, and a lot of this stuff might sound, I don't know, out of this world or a little bit hokey, but like the research is there. And you have people like Aubrey de Grey that is going to be at your conference.
That's right.
And then there are different theories of what's happening with aging. And that's where it becomes fascinating to me. Because, like with the telomerase, these are like the ends, like shoestrings on your DNA. And as they shorten, now you can't tie your shoes. And as time passes, the telomerase, which is the enzyme that breaks down telomeres, start to shorten those shoestrings. And the idea is that anything that can lengthen those telomeres is going to provide you with longevity.
That's right.
So the reason I do this podcast is just to introduce people to new concepts. And sometimes, like how long have you been going, on this longevity quest? You have so much knowledge that you've left a lot of people behind, and like we're talking at this really high level, center right now, and I want to make it accessible for people that are listening. So, in your opinion, how would you explain aging?
Well, first of all, I would describe aging as a disease. Now, that's revolutionary in itself, of course, but if you think about it, as you age, we get all these age-related diseases. The body starts to break down. Most people think it's just inevitable. We're programmed that way, that death is inevitable. Well, if you look into our evolutionary process, our bodies through natural selection actually chose the propagation of the species over immortality. The immortal principle is there. The immortal cell, I'll say, is there in the DNA, the original DNA. But our natural selection through evolutionary process chose the propagation of the species over, I'll say, infinite lifespans. That's why people have such a hard time even with the thought of, the possibility of the infinite lifespans, because we're not programmed at all for that. We're programmed to, propagate the species, have children, collect a bunch of things, and then die and get off the planet when we're not worth it. When we're not, able to propagate the species anymore, and we're not worth. We don't have the strength. Yeah. We deteriorate. So what we want to do, of course, is change that program. So there's two things. We have to change that program by our mindset, okay, that we're just sending different messages through our DNA. And that comes to the messages we send each other, even right now in this conversation, and people that are listening. I mean, as far as people being skeptical about this, people have been skeptical about any new, experience, any new innovation, any new discovery throughout human history, whether it be the automobile or planes or you name it. So that's just there in the human body, okay, to question. So this is new. This is new, but it's been worked on for many, many years now. Now it's starting to come to the forefront. And really, it's such important work because if you think about it, death itself, okay, and aging takes away everything from us. It robs us of all of our wisdom, our knowledge, our vitality, the real wealth of our persons and everybody we love. So this work is so enormous and so, I'll say, use the word earlier, noble, that it's drawing some of the top scientists in the country now to actually begin to want to be in the forefront of this work. So you're going to hear more and more about it. Everybody is. This is why we put on RAADfest, to draw everybody together. And last year we had over 50 press outlets there from all over the world, BBC, NBC, you name it. They were there giving interviews and with these scientists and talking to me and others about, what's happening right now. So it not only is an exciting new field, but it is new. So people are just now beginning to hear it, but we're destined to this. We're destined as human beings to come to this place. We really need to begin to embrace it because it's going to happen. Don't be left out. There's people on earth right now that are alive that will not see death.
And it's becoming more and more accessible, like you said, it starts with going to the dealer's counter and getting some hydrating vitamin C cream, for $200 an ounce, and that's anti-aging. That's what you're talking about, and I never connected the two. And then, companies copying it, and now you can find it in your pharmacy at your neighborhood. And then it kind of is becoming a little bit more sophisticated, because a lot of the people that I hang out with that have been or are going to RAADfest are biohackers.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's people that are taking, maybe they want to be able to PR on the back squat, or maybe they want to be able to burn more fat, or maybe they want to be more efficient with sleep. And then you start accumulating all these strategies, like you mentioned, the Wim Hof method, or, eating certain amounts of protein, or maybe intermittent fasting. And then it becomes a little bit more sophisticated and more interesting. And then the science starts coming out and shows us how these methods are working to optimize your health. Now, you are kind of accumulating all this knowledge, not only to optimize health, but to optimize longevity.
That's right. Things are, like I say, so exponentially moving now fast that there's so much now coming to the table. Like you said, these creams and all these anti-aging elements have been there for quite some time. But now, people are going, okay, we've done these kind of, I'll use the term superficial things. What are we going to do really to stop this aging process? Because, we only put so much cream on, so many facelifts, right? So many facelifts, and so many, then pretty soon, no matter how many facelifts you do, the body's looking old. So now people are putting two to two together. Some top scientists are saying, hey, we got to go deeper, and that's what's happening. And it's that simple, really. Okay, it's progressed. People don't want to age, but also people are also very programmed to death, only through religion, for their religious beliefs, and also through, like I said earlier, the programming of the DNA and the evolutionary process.
Do you think it's defeatist to just accept death? Like you said, your mom said, "Oh, she's in heaven," and did you feel cheated?
I did. I don't know if I can use the word defeatist, because I think, that's a belief system most people believe in. And I believed in that. I believed in heaven at that time. I just thought, wow, it's not good enough for me. I'd rather have heaven here on earth than not die. So for me, yes, I haven't stopped believing that that's possible. And I think it's better, in my mind, to think that way, okay, than to go quietly into the night, as the poem goes, to fight for all your might to stay alive and not go quietly into the night. And that's what I am, and several people are doing in this world today. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful way to live. I actually feel like myself that I will not see death. And I want that for everybody. I think that, we know the great thing about this, Dr. Rez, is that this is an opportunity for real, I'll say, a real peace on this earth that's never been, because that is really basically impossible, I think, without ending aging and death. Because first of all, human life is so short, basically. So the value of human life is so low. By increasing the lifespan, we're going to increase the value of human life. And we're going to think twice about taking our life or taking the life of somebody else when we know they could possibly live many, many years, more than we thought. That maybe they could live 100 or 2 more years, or maybe even an infinite lifespan. So we're going to increase the value of human life, which is so vital. Right now, we are so paralyzed by the fear of death in our bodies. We don't realize it, but we create all kinds of coping mechanisms to deal with it. So that also keeps a huge stress on our bodies. And it keeps us at war with ourselves and war with each other. So it's a huge this new movement also has the promising effect to really create a whole new human environment that we could really have, I'll say, we could have heaven here on earth.
It's very easy to comprehend using a cream or taking a pill or, doing an IV infusion. And that's easy. But like some of this stuff that's going on is beyond that, like using artificial intelligence. You had someone speak last year at RAADfest about using artificial intelligence to preserve knowledge. Can you talk a little bit about that? That was super interesting.
Yeah, I think that was Dr. Ben Gertzel. He's an AI specialist, and he actually brought Sophia, a robot. And, now she's the most famous robot in the world, and she was at RAADfest last year. And she's very attractive, actually. I think I almost fell in love with her. And, like the movie,
Her, yeah.
Her, yes. But he was speaking about how we upload. I mean, this is another view within the AI. One of the views within the AI community, that our bodies, as they break down, if we are not able to keep them, all of our vital parts intact and strong, well, then why not upload our mind into a robot? Maybe that robot would be partial human flesh and partial new technology. There's all kinds of new metals that, for example, some people have talked about using, having titanium arms or titanium legs and be stronger and faster and actually be like superhuman beings, So this is a whole new part of the super longevity, a different branch of the super longevity community, but a very important branch, because we already, are using, artificial things to keep us alive. So that would be a possibility. That, I mean, for me, I would choose, and sitting here talking with you, I'd much rather have, say, a gene therapy, for example, that could lengthen my telomeres, strengthen my body, stay alive that way. But what about somebody who, say, they couldn't survive that, and they're in too weak a spot, or maybe they're already have, a weak situation in their bodies. So how can we keep them alive? Well, these are great possibilities to be uploaded into, that could be a cyborg, to be uploaded into a robot, and your brain, as Ray Kurzweil says, we're kind of living a virtual reality anyway, right? So, so your brain would be uploaded, but you would still be able to have consciousness, and so that's another, way of being alive and not dying, in essence.
So, within my lifespan, do you think that's going to be possible?
Well, it depends how long your lifespan wants to be.
That's why I said mine. That's why I didn't say ours.
Are you talking?
Because if I had said ours, yeah, but that's why I said my lifespan. Do you think?
Okay. Yes, I do. I think this is gonna. There's predictions. Some of this is gonna happen. It's already starting to happen. There's amazing things happening in the lab already, along the uploading of the mind and so forth, and uploading it into a cloud, and being able to download your, everything that you're. Unlimited knowledge. Some predictions are as early as 20 years, some more. I mean, you have a whole array of people working on this, and everybody has a kind of a different prediction. I do think, like I said, that in the next 5 years, there's going to be some amazing new innovations that will, anybody who wants to utilize them will actually increase the lifespans remarkably.
Yeah, and that's what's fascinating, because we have technology and we have brilliant minds working to solve these problems. And are you familiar with Moore's law? Like the speed of a microprocessor kind of doubles, and then it cuts its price in half at the same time. And that happens with almost every new technology except with healthcare. Healthcare continues to get shittier and more expensive. And when I started, in medical school, the thought was that, going and making people feel better with natural things and making them have more vitality. And that has been my goal this whole time. And because I did see my mother-in-law pass away from cancer. And some of the things that they used in order for her to get better, quote unquote, almost killed her. And it was a cancer that eventually took her away. But, she got a gnarly infection from her PICC line. And this was like the thing that was supposed to deliver the medicine to kill the cancer. How many people have you known in your life that had cancer, went to treatment, and they probably would have been better off not having the treatment?
Yeah, I have a good friend, close friend, that actually had cancer, contracted cancer about 4 years ago. Fortunately, she was in this environment that I'm talking about now, this super longevity arena, where she was introduced to a gene therapy rather than, her doctor immediately when she got the cancer, 10 sessions of chemo, cut it out, cut the tumor out, blah, blah, blah. Well, instead, she met a doctor in this arena who gave her a gene therapy. It was amazing. He used the tumor that was in her breast, injected it with a special formula that, was created for the gene therapy. And the tumor then took that information from there, created a prophylactic effect throughout the body of the cancer, and dissolved the tumor. And now she's stronger than ever. she has a total protection of the cancer throughout from her body. From that, it's like a vaccine almost to protect now against that cancer in her body, and the tumor completely dissolved. And this, she went to had to go out of the country to get this, unfortunately. But I saw the contrast between when we go to these doctors' offices to see about this other, traditional treatment. There were these people in there that were so sick from the treatment, from chemo, that even if they survived the treatment, they're going to live lots of years. Many of them had infections already from the lower immune system. In fact, this doctor who did this gene therapy, he said after many times these people come to him after they've had several rounds of chemo, and he can't even work with them because their immune system is so low. So this gene therapy you have to have a good immune system because that's what it's based on, to activate your own immune system, make it strong enough to beat the cancer. So this is the new advance. And he said, this was a couple of years ago, he said it'd probably be 5 to 10 more years, Jim, before people in the United States will actually begin to do this on a whole scale, unfortunately. But the contrast, I take her there, she lays on a table, falls asleep on the table as the injector, wakes up, and we go to lunch. I mean, that's the way things can be. That's like we see in Star Trek. They wave a beam over the person when they're sick. They get up and walk out, And our treatments, like you're saying, are, for the most part, for cancer and these horrible diseases, for the most part, or many of them, are so primitive. So you're right. We have not advanced like we need to advance. And I commend you for the preventative work you're doing in medicine and the healing that you are doing. And I want us to go in the direction of actually curing aging, because that will be like a domino effect. If we can beat death, which we can, then that will be a domino effect for all these other diseases. Instead of fighting them one by one, spending billions of dollars on curing cancer, and then we finally cure it, we're only going to increase the lifespan by maybe 2.5 years. It'll end a lot of suffering, but that's the reality of the lifespan extension. So we need to do something bigger than that. We need to find that element, which is the primary, I'll say, cause of everything. And I think that is the aging, and cure it. And there will be a domino effect and knocking out all these other diseases.
And it's a very lofty goal, but there are people trying to solve that problem. So the experience with your friend, this is not a thought concept. This is not a thought experiment. This happened.
That's right.
And that's what's amazing, that the technology, and maybe it's very specific for a very specific type of cancer at this moment, but hopefully with the right conditions, and I'm talking about with the right, money allocation and the right scientists, maybe this technology can be expanded to treat other forms of cancer.
Well, exactly. They already see that. They already know that can be. It's just a matter of time.
I know within RAAD, there's a lot of interest in stem cells. What's exciting to you about stem cells? Have you had any stem cell therapies?
No, but I'm looking at getting one here soon, a full body stem cell treatment. And actually, it's from a doctor from Asia that's been working in the stem cells for like 50 years now. He's remarkable. He actually spoke here. I think I mentioned it to you at my People Unlimited here in Scottsdale. I run an organization called People Unlimited. It's a company dedicated to SuperLongevity, and we have meetings every week. So I want to invite you to speak there sometime.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I think you'd enjoy it. I think they'd enjoy hearing you. So anyway, yes, the work he's doing is so remarkable and so much more advanced than what we're able to do here in the United States right now, unfortunately, because our hands got tied, back with what took place with Bush and everything, and the restrictions are so strong, as you know. You're mentioning Camilla.
Yeah, Kristen Camilla. Yeah.
Yeah, she's going through some real crisis right now, and that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, and I'm gonna do a little synopsis of what's happening. So,
sure.
In the United States, you can draw stem cells from your body, and they are considered yours, and you can do whatever the hell you want with them. But you can only draw a very little amount of stem cells. There is technology that exists where you can duplicate and then, exponentially create vast amounts of stem cells. But the moment you start expansion of your own stem cells, the FDA has said that that's no longer yours, and you are not allowed to do that. And you're not allowed to use your own stem cells to inject your body. There is a certain number of stem cells that the human body has. And if you extract all of your stem cells, you'll die. So you can only do a very little amount. And I went to the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, where we have the Neil Riordan Pain Management Center, and I should give you a tour of the facilities. Phenomenal. Did
you say Neil Riordan help you set that up?
Yeah. He gave to date, he gave the biggest donation to a naturopathic medical school, and we have a Neil Riordan Center.
I did not know that. He spoke at RAADfest 2 years ago.
No way. Yeah, no, super cool guy. Yeah. And, we, Kristen Camella, we have, I don't know if you know of Harry Adelson. He's out of Utah, and he's good friends with Neil. And through those connections, we have the Pain Management Center here, and he really likes the idea of having, because what's more natural than using your own stem cells to cure a joint? What's more natural, than to use stem cells to regenerate tissue? In the United States, we're one of the few facilities. And I'm going to venture and say that we're probably the only facility that has a clinic that is actually treating people actively with practicing physicians doing injection therapies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
And
so that's at the naturopathic school here. That's where it's located?
Yeah. Here in Tempe, Arizona. And man, you have to come out here, and I'll give you a tour of the facilities, and they're But since we are a medical institution and we want to get FDA permission to do stem cell, we're going to be pretty much castrated with the kind of stuff that we can do. We're going to be able to do very limited stuff when it comes to using stem cells, because we want to be on the up and up, because we have to advance the science.
Right.
But outside of the United States, like if you go to Panama, if you go to Asia, if you go outside of the United States, you'll go in, they'll take your stem cells, they'll expand them, and then the next day you come in, and now instead of having, 10 cc's, 10 milliliters of your stem cells, they'll have a liter of your stem cells, and they can inject you everywhere, and they can,
Exactly.
Yeah, they can do. So what kind of stuff is this doctor you're talking about doing, now that I've explained what's happening with the FDA?
Yeah, I'd like you to hear him. In fact, I can give you a copy of his talk that he gave here. He's doing some remarkable stuff that is way out, very effective. He has 21 clinics now throughout Europe, and he does what's called targeted stem cells. He makes the point that, if you're treating the kidneys, for example, you need to treat it with kidney stem cells. If you're treating the bladder, it needs to be bladder stem cells. Too often we think, and it can have some positive effect, but if you just inject the body, he says, with stem cells, like a full body stem cell treatment, thinking that it's going to go to the kidneys and completely cure the kidneys if there's an issue, more than likely it won't. Sometimes it might help, and sometimes, generally speaking, it can, but it's not going to have the effect if you do what he calls the bullseye approach. And that bullseye approach is, first, he does careful analyzation, of course, of the situation. Too often my experience is with going to friends and talking to other doctors here in the States, because they are limited in their approach, they'll have some stem cells and they'll say, well, yeah, I'll inject you in a joint, or I'll give you a whole body stem cell treatment, and it will go wherever it needs to go to heal things. And too often you don't even know what the stem cell count is there. You don't really know where it came from. You don't really know the strength of it totally. And so you get injected, and maybe it costs, $8,000 to $10,000, or, just using that as an example. But you don't really get the full effect. And it's too bad, because the limitations doctors have here still. But he hasn't had those limitations. He's been able to be very much supported by the different countries in Europe that he's got support from. And so he's been able to go really to the fullest lengths and being able to work with stem cells and get the effects that's needed. And so I'll have to send you his talk, because you'll be really surprised.
And I guess we should start with, what the hell are stem cells? That's
Well, you need to give a good explanation of that.
well,
You're good at that.
yeah. So stem cells are gonna be, the technical term is pluripotent cells. So it's like this cell that lives in your bone marrow or lives in your fat. Sometimes, we can extract stem cells from fat, from lipid tissue, and this little cell is basically undecided on what to do. And as your body needs, for example, if your body needs a red blood cell, this little stem cell decides to become a red blood cell and it becomes blood. Or if you have like an injury, this little cell, your body activates it and says, okay, you need to become bone, or this other stem cell is going to become muscle or tendon or ligament. So this stem cell has the ability to convert itself into whatever it's needed. So whenever you hear of someone getting injected in their joint with a stem cell, the joints, they're not very well vascularized. They don't have a lot of blood flow to them. So if you get injured, that joint gets injured and it doesn't have a lot of blood flow. So now you can't bring nutrients, you can't bring cytokines, which are chemical signals that the cells make in order to heal that. Furthermore, what do we do whenever we get an injury on, like, for example, your knee? They're going to tell you, take some Advil or take some, something to stop the inflammation. And that's, you can make an argument that that's like the worst thing you can do. Because if you stop the inflammation, now you're not going to have the healing elements that come in and help heal that part of the body. You're basically shutting down the reconstruction of that tissue. And I'm not even talking about things like cortisone shots, which, like, cortisone actually degrades tendons, degrades soft tissue. So imagine that, instead of injecting something that is halting the inflammatory response, you're going right there into the joint and injecting a cell that can become whatever you want it to become. That the body realizes, oh, finally, we get some blood flow. Oh, I see some stem cells. Okay, little stem cell, I want you to convert into tendon. I want you to convert into synovial fluid, and I want you to convert into, and now you're having the reparation of all that stuff right in the joint. Again, this in the United States, we can only use autologous stem cells. So you can only do it, right there and then. You cannot expand the volume. So you can only do a couple of sites at a time. Interestingly enough, there are other technologies like embryonic tissue. So like people that donate the umbilical cord, you can extract some cytokines. Those are not stem cells because you cannot do any live tissue. And you dry it out. So you basically get all the messengers that are saying, hey, we need to have some growth factors, and you can buy that and inject it into the joint. But that's not an actual stem cell, and be very wary. A lot of people that are doing, desiccated or dry tissue that are cytokines, and they are commonly called exosomes. Those injections can be very healing too, but those are not to be confused with stem cells. And there's a lot of miscommunication, and sometimes, when you have new technologies like that, people are trying to get into the game, and they'll cut corners, and then they'll start misinforming, or they'll start talking about the wrong thing, and it's not cool because we're trying to get this stuff to be mainstream. And when you make false claims, I'm not saying that exosomes or umbilical cord tissue is bad. In fact, it can be very, very beneficial. But we have to be black and white when it comes to this, because we don't want all of these technologies to be taken away because of misinformation. And it gets super interesting, because there's a study out of Boston University, I'm pretty sure, Boston Children's Hospital, where for MCL tears, what they're doing is they're basically getting PRP, so platelet-rich plasma, which is not even, stem cells. And instead of trying to reconnect the tendon or whatever, they go in and they put a little piece of sponge, and then they saturate that sponge with the platelet-rich plasma to create kind of a bridge. And then the blood saturates the sponge, and then it replaces the sponge and connects the tissues.
Extraordinary, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that.
And again, this is not make believe. This is not, the future. This is happening
No, that's
now.
right. It's happening right now. That's right.
And imagine that instead of having a kid with a 6-inch scar across their patella, they go in arthroscopically, they put in a little piece of surgical sponge, they saturate it with a little bit of blood that has been spun down to concentrate it, and now they have faster recovery, and now you're not moving a bunch of tissues trying to reconnect things. It is so much more elegant, and we need to continue doing these things. Imagine a world where you don't have to have any more hip replacements.
That's a good word to use. Elegant medicine, elegant ways of doing things, and get out of some of the primitive states.
Yeah, the primitive, cut first and ask questions later.
Yeah, and it's going to take, moving way out of the box. And I'm grateful for a lot of people who are doing that now. They face scrutiny, like everybody does who does anything new, right? That's all part of the power. But I'm grateful for these people who are working to do things now in the medical field that will make it much easier on the human body to heal and for us to live. Yeah, it's extraordinary.
So, Jim, for anyone that's interested in this stuff and they want to get a little bit more knowledgeable, like a working, some working knowledge on this movement, any books you recommend? Any movies or anything that where they should start?
Yeah, fantastic journey with Ray Kurzweil. He wrote this great book on basically explaining this new era now and what's happening. There's a new book by Jim Mellon. He just brought it out. Jim Mellon.
Okay, I'll put it on the show notes.
You can go on and just Google any of the new books on SuperLongevity or longevity to start there. And also, one of the biggest things you could do in that context is jump right into the environment, see what's going on. Come to RAADfest in Vegas.
Most definitely. 3rd.
Yeah. Well, you'll see everything. You meet the people. The books will be there. All the new information of what's happening. It'll blow your mind. Anybody who it's another world, and it's already happening.
What are you going to be speaking about at RAADfest?
Oh, everything. We're going to have 26 different speakers there on the main stage, another 20 or so on an exhibit hall stage, plus about 80 to 90 exhibitors exhibiting all new therapies and new modalities and supplements to, age reversal and anti-aging, really advanced stuff. And they'll be speaking everywhere from, stem cells to gene therapies to young blood infusions to thymus regeneration.
Ooh, can we talk a little bit about that? Tell me about young blood infusions. I know there's a very famous experiment where they took an old rat and they attached it to a young rat, and they created some sort of like bridge where the blood was circulating between both rats, and the old rat kind of rejuvenated.
Right. So it's pretty remarkable. There's a Dr. Mahara in Florida who's been doing some remarkable work on that. He's actually got some approval now connected with the FDA to do some studies to try to validate this on a bigger level now. But they do have a lot of very strong evidence of the effectiveness. It's pretty remarkable. As you said, that it was effective in these rats for sure. And now they've been doing some human trials. There's also a company that does the cord blood, which is a little bit, they claim they're getting fantastic results. But it's still such at a young state. There's many people, I've known a few people who have done it. I've met them and claim really fantastic results. But it's still in the early stages.
What's the process like?
The basic process, is they can either take the blood from cord blood and inject it into you, and it's just like a transfusion. It's not difficult. They don't like in the studies. So they don't tie two people together like that, like
a portal system. Yeah.
Another technique they were using and have used that they'll get donors, specifically young donors. That's what they call it, young blood infusions, and then they'll inject it into more mature adults. And they've had great results that way. We have a speaker. You might want to hear him too. He's coming on the 20th of September here. He's going to be speaking on GH11. That they're having fantastic. He said mind-blowing information he's got on this. He'll also be at RAADfest. He spoke there before.
What is GH11?
It's so new, and I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you all the intricacies of it, but it's really fascinating. We have HG11 in our bodies, and as it decreases, one of the theories is that we age with it. So these are very small doses of the GH11 into our system. I think it can be. I think it's taken orally. He's going to tell us all the details about it, and you have to take very almost microscopic doses because it's very, very potent. And he's documented his results, so we'll be able to see him. Tremendous skin improvement, cardiovascular strength, just about all the biomarkers improving. So it has a tendency to be a very strong youthing agent. So there's a lot of evidence in that we're taking a good look at. Some of these are so new, though, we have to really sort them out,
Have you ever had any interventions, or have you ever taken anything that you were like, yeah, that didn't work?
That's a good one. Yeah, gosh, I can name quite a few things that, because I take a lot of different things, sometimes it's hard to tell. I try to, though, when I'm going to take something new, I don't take 2 or 3 new things at the same time, because I'm careful about the dosing so I can kind of see if I can tell anything. I'm trying to think specifically maybe what it would be. But when I took NAD, I really couldn't tell anything, I may have slept a little better. They say that's one of the symptoms. But I have good energy anyway, so I couldn't really tell much. But I only took about, I took a series of 2. In fact, you got me the patches. Yeah. Thank you. And so I took the patches, but a lot of people get remarkable responses on that. Some people who have brain fog or problems from drug addiction, it really clears them up. It's pretty fast. It's pretty fantastic. How about you? You had any experiences like that?
Oh, yeah. I went vegetarian there for a while. I gained a bunch of weight, and I think, I think it was because I didn't go vegetarian. I went carbotarian.
Carbotarian.
Yeah. So like I was trying to do something good for my health, and instead of eating more vegetables, I was eating veggie pizza and veggie brownies, and so I basically was trying to do something healthy while still doing my bad habits.
There you go. That's an issue with all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually, through reading some books, I found the paleo diet, and now it makes so much more sense to include some meat in my diet just because of the nutritional profile of meat and all the nutrients that we can get with a very small amount.
Last I saw you trimmed down good. Now you look good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was speaking season, so I have to, go into my speaking weight. Another thing that I tried that didn't work out at all was, have you ever done sodium bicarbonate or like baking soda to try to alkalinize yourself?
Totally.
The only thing that happened was like I pooped a lot. So go easy if you're going to try it. But, and it's funny because like a lot of these things, like trying to alkalinize yourself, that's trying to reduce the acid in your system. And this alkalinizing effect, the lactic acid that builds up in your muscles, acts like a signal to your muscles to grow. And if you reduce it, then you're reducing that inflammation, which is going to help you grow. And if you reduce that inflammation, then you won't grow. So at some point, all inflammation is not bad. Just like when I was talking about the joint, you want to inflame a little bit so you can go in and fix things. We need to be conscious of having good amounts of inflammation, hormesis, to help with regeneration of tissues, to signal to the body, hey, we need to clean up a little bit and take away, some of these old cells that might be taking space. And then at the same time, not have overt inflammation where you're breaking the camel's back. And now you are, this inflammatory case that are just walking around as a ball of inflammation. So like that's the thing with like omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. Had you asked me like 5-10 years ago, I would have told you, oh, you take as much omega-3 as you want, the more the better. And in reality, having that high level of omega-3 fatty acids can interfere with some of that good inflammation. So we want to be balanced, and that's not sexy because it's easy to say, oh, just take some baking soda and a bunch of fish oil and you'll be better. But the reality is that the truth is in the middle.
Exactly.
So tell us, when is RAADfest? How can people get a hold of that? Where can people, are you guys going to have like videos? How can people buy tickets? What's the website?
Yeah, people can go to RAADfest, that's RAADfest, FEST.com, and register there. There are several different packages. There's 3 or 4 different packages for people to fit their budgets. It's October 3rd through the 6th in Vegas. Like I said, it's going to be an amazing event. I would say don't miss it, because if you have anyone interested in all longevity, this is where to go. And you're going to learn everything and get a full view of what's happening. Your mind will be blown by being there. I mean, you're from the exhibit hall all the way to the speakers. I mean, it just everybody that comes there says, oh, wow, I never knew this was happening on this scale. And so it's very, very, very impressive and very inspirational and fun. We designed it like a Woodstock for radical life extension, because the scientists said, hey, we're bored with our own science events. We want something exciting. So he said, hey, let's have fun. We have dancing, music, and the best of science. So it's, parties, and it's just a great time too.
What about if people want to join that local event here in town, or if they want to get a hold of you? How can people,
Yeah, they can go and Google People Unlimited, peopleunlimitedinc.com, and see our website where our meetings are and what time our meetings are. And our meetings are open to the public. We meet every Monday and Friday. We have weekends events too, and so once a month. So we have a really great venue that we meet at, and a lot of people who are very inspirational and very fun people. They'll enjoy hearing you.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. Jim, this has been super interesting. I can't wait to spread this message. This is almost like beyond health. Now we're talking like at a bigger level. Thank you so much.
It's a bigger level. Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving me your time. And dude, I'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me on. Stay alive.
You do too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I'll see you soon.